So I'm so excited. This morning, Sara and I are going to co-preach, and we're sharing this message of finding rest in God. And I'm going to start us off with some personal reflection from my life, and then Sara will finish things off for us and sharing her story. And one of the things when I think about this passage of Jesus saying, "Come to me, all who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and you will find rest," it reminds me of times when I have struggled with anxiety. And one of those times was when I was a senior in college at Whitworth College, and I was struggling to figure out what am I going to do when I graduate. And so I went to one of my professors, a theology professor named Jerry Sitzer, and I asked him, can you give me some advice on what I should do when I graduate? And he said, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your future, but what I do want you to do is go to a retreat center that I know about. And at that retreat center, I want you to pray for a couple days and listen to Jesus, listen to God's direction for your life. So I took Jerry Sitzer's advice. I went to a retreat center up in the mountains that was run by a group of nuns, and I spent 2 days out enjoying nature and in a room where I could pray. And something very powerful happened to me as I spent time in solitude with God, just being in God's presence. I started to relax, I started to rest, and I started to hear my own heart and what I most desired from God. And this prayer came from inside of me, and it's a very profound prayer that shaped the next few years of my life. It was a prayer of basically saying, "Help me, Jesus, learn to receive your love. Help me to learn to receive your love." Well, after that retreat, I finished my senior year, and I decided to move to Seattle. And I was close to my parents there in Seattle, and so we were able to connect quite a bit. And I went to my dad's church at the time, and I got involved in a special contemplative spiritual exercises of everyday life program run by a group of Jesuits connected to Seattle University, where my mom was teaching. And every month I would go on a prayer retreat. And then every 2 weeks, I would meet with a spiritual director. And the spiritual director's name was Brainerd Shu. He was a Protestant minister, Chinese. And he began to teach me how to really rest in God's love through contemplative prayer. And if you're not familiar with contemplative prayer, it's really about praying in a way where you sometimes are just silent before God, or you just be with God, but you don't necessarily fill the time necessarily with words. Or if you pray with words, that's fine, but you just approach it with a lot of rest, a lot of grace, of just being in God's presence. Sometimes it involves going out in nature. And so I started this habit of spiritual direction and these prayer retreats, and my life started to change, and I started to relax. And I realized that this would be critical for my ministry so that I wouldn't burn out. Well, now fast forward about 20 years, and I'm doing ministry here at Newberg First Presbyterian Church, and I'm also in a Doctor of Ministry program with Fuller Seminary. And I decide that as I'm beginning my ministry at this church that I want to start a college ministry because of my own background, loving college students and going to college and being so influenced by different mentors. And we start a college ministry called Kayak, which is College and Young Adult Community. And as part of my doctoral program, I choose 4 students from this college ministry to meet with me for spiritual direction and then to also participate in a prayer retreat. And I chose 4 different students that were already active in Kayak, and I asked them if they wanted to participate, and they said they wanted to. And we had a powerful time, this was last spring, meeting together and then also experiencing a retreat together. And one of the students that participated was Sara Hailemeskel. Actually, another one was Noah over here. And Sara is going to share with you about that experience, her experience with Kayak, and other ways in which she has grown in her own prayer life. And so I'm going to hand it over to her to continue our message.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you all today how I find rest in God. So just a little intro about me. I am a third-year student at George Fox, majoring in elementary education and with a minor in youth ministry. And I'll say a little about how I got into my passion to go into ministry later on, because it got added later in the semester in my years at George Fox. Just wanted you all to know that I've been praying for everyone in this time of unrest, and so for God to just be in our lives and give us peace. Before I start, however, I would love to sing you guys a song in Amharic, and if I was to translate this song, it would be Finding Happiness in Jesus. And so I hope you enjoy. And I sing this song with my youth group when I lead them, and so they love it so much, and so I hope you also enjoy it. So here it is. Andikan በመንገድ ላይ እየሄድኩኝ ኢየሱስ የሚባል ወዳጅ አገኘሁኝ። እግሩ ስር ቁጭ ብዬ አስተማረኝ። ልቤ ደስ 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 አሰኘኝ። ልቤ ደስ 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 አሰኘኝ። አንድ ቀን በመንገድ ላይ እየሄድኩኝ ኢየሱስ የሚባል ወዳጅ አገኘሁኝ። እግሩ ስር ቁጭ ብዬ አስተማረኝ። ልቤ ደስ 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 አሰኘኝ. Okay. I hope you enjoyed listening to that, as I loved singing this song as a kid growing up. Now, getting back into what I want to share with you today about my prayer life. Prayer for me is a big part of my faith in talking with God and sensing His presence in my journey and different parts of my life. And so, yes, one of the aspect of that I found rest is within this church, and that's through Kayak, our college and young adult community that we meet here every Monday night. I have came close to this group in that we were together for 2 years now, and in that time we've came together to worship, to share prayers, and just to be in presence of one another and caring and understanding what we are going through. Just seeing how God worked in similar ways, but yet in very distinct situations in each one of us' life is very impressive. And so coming together every Monday night and to just appreciate Him for everything He's done for us is an amazing opportunity. And so it gives me rest knowing that God works differently, but yet gives us the passion to continue on our faith and to pray for Him. And so through college and young adult community, I have experienced rest, and I have found rest in God by praying together and worshiping together. And then, as Pastor Chris mentioned a little bit earlier about spiritual direction, I did take part in that, and it was just an amazing experience to be led in this ministry work of prayer life, and just the reflection of the different journeys I've taken with God, and just realizing God was there in those different parts of my journey. And so following that spiritual direction session, we did go on a prayer retreat, and we came as a church first because it was after a season of Lent, and we were encouraged to go after a small session here. We were encouraged to go about outside or anywhere we felt comfortable in. And so I remember going outside, and it was just a beautiful day that day, and carrying with me my prayer journal. And so I began to write. So I love to write. I write my prayers down a lot of the time. And so during that time, I prayed to God how thankful I was for being part of the spiritual direction time with Pastor Chris, and realizing how much love and how much support and how much grace God has shown me throughout my life. And as I was writing down my prayers, I felt a sense of calling in my heart. and that calling was of ministry, and how much I have given goodness from God, and how much I want to share that goodness with others in the future. Hopefully in my future vocation as a teacher, I wanted to add ministry also. And so that passion for youth ministry started to develop right after that spiritual direction session. And as I was praying to God, I was feeling called to that journey. And so, I added that at George Fox, and learning of this new path has just also been great so far. Yes. And so another part of my prayer life I wanted to share with you is just relationship with family and friends. So just recently, I've taken time off to spend time with my mom in California in a time of her need, where difficult situations were just being present in our lives. And so I took time to be with her and to do all that she wanted me to do. And so in my tradition or in my culture, we value family. And so taking that time was very important for me, and it definitely built our relationship together, and it shown me rest in God. Because during that time with my mom, we prayed a lot, and we read our devotional daily. And during that time, our relationship was strengthened with each other, but also with God. And so through prayer, we found rest, even though difficult situations were all around us, and health issues were there, but yet God kind of gave us this foundation of rest to find in Him, because we gave our challenging times and our challenging situations over to God. And so those are just some ways I've found rest within this church and also outside of this church. And for each one, I praise God for all of them, because they've definitely strengthened my faith, and I have sensed God's presence in each one of them, and strengthened my relationship also with God and also with my friends, like from Kayak. So yes, thank you again for the time to allow me to share this with you all. May you all be blessed and know that God's presence is with you. And I just want to say how just to humble ourselves during this time especially, and to trust in Him in finding rest. Let us also accept His invitation with open hearts and minds to share our burdens with Jesus, so that we can find rest that way. So I would love to close this with prayer. Dear Father, thank you for this opportunity to share how I find rest in you. God, you've definitely given me all the opportunity to find rest in you through my prayer, and I am thankful and grateful for all that. Today, God, I pray for everyone listening to this, that they also find rest in you. In this time of uncertainty or what the future might hold, Lord Father, allow everyone to accept your invitation to share their burdens with you, so that it can be made light, so that they can find fulfillment in you, and difficult situations could be made easy. And Lord Father, allow us to accept that with open hearts and mind. Father, also allow us to see your mercy and your grace and your love for each and every one of us. Allow us to know that your presence is in our lives, and that we could trust you to create personal relationships that can help us find our way. In your name we pray all these things. Amen.